Hello everybody, and welcome to the Blue Collar Lacrosse Marc Mesh Studios. We are the proud makers of Marc Mesh and the home of Puck Tectonics, a science dedicated to the study of the movement of a lacrosse ball through the pocket of a lacrosse stick. Here at Blue Collar Lacrosse, it's all business, and we take the pocket of a lacrosse stick extremely serious. Okay, when Mark Steinhaus comes for a visit, things can get a little crazy around here. However, aside from that, it's all business. Now, we've been asked by our many retailers, including loyal fans of Marc Mesh, that we shoot this video to show you the difference between Marc Mesh and the many imitation meshes that are coming up on the market. A lot of these imitation meshes follow the same pattern by taking advantage of social medias that are not regulated to make sure they're telling the truth. They also tend to copy everything that we have done in the past, whether it be the description of our mesh, our packaging, and things like referring to their mesh as a 15mm mesh or a 20mm mesh when it isn't. Here in my right hand, I have a mesh that refers to itself as a 15mm. 15mm is a word that was invented by Blue Collar Lacrosse to show the precision that we use in our diamond size. This right here, while it refers to itself on its packaging as a 15mm mesh, is not a 15mm mesh. On top of that, there's a lot of meshes that will shoot YouTube videos and refer to Marc Mesh in their videos, pitting their product against ours. Well, here we have the #1 culprit of that, and we are now going to be doing an experiment called the poke and hammer test, which will pit their product, Pocket Polish, against what we use to make Marc Mesh, which is Meshbutter. After the experiment, I will break down what that means, and hopefully this will shed some light on the difference between Marc Mesh and the imitation meshes that are popping up on the market. The first test we are going to be performing is the poke test. I'm going to be wearing gloves for this experiment, as the imitation mesh tends to put perfume in their wax. So I've also included a scale so that you can see the amount of pressure being put down on the product. So here we go. Here I'm going to poke against the East Coast, and as you can see, it basically turns into what I would refer to as mashed potatoes. I believe there's only been about 60 pounds of pressure that was put on that, and there you go. That's what you're looking at. Now I'm going to try the Meshbutter. For this, I'll take the gloves off, and with the Meshbutter, as you can see, I'm pushing down as hard as I can, putting in excess of 100 pounds of pressure on it, and there's absolutely no fingerprints or anything that's happened. We'll move on to the hammer test. For the hammer test, simply, we're just going to be taking the competitor's product, hitting it with a hammer, as we will do the same to Meshbutter. Here's what happens. As you can see, gets a little gooey. Let me just wipe that off. Alright, and now for the Meshbutter. So what exactly were these experiments meant to show you? Well, they were meant to show you that when Meshbutter, which sits at the center of the nylon, and that's very important to understand, that it sits at the center of the nylon, Meshbutter breaks into tiny little shards. Those tiny little shards give you the properties of a soft mesh when you're catching and trying to hold the ball under pressure. However, those tiny little shards come together like tiny puzzle pieces to give you pocket memory. That pocket memory acts like a hard mesh when throwing the ball, giving you consistency. With consistency, you were able to build up muscle memory, and with muscle memory, you're able to build up accuracy and velocity. So unlike the imitation wax mesh, which is simply wax and remains malleable throughout its lifetime, while they tell you that it's waterproof, and I'm sure it is, anything you add wax to will be, it does not break in. Over the entire life of this mesh, it will be a constant changing battle because of its viscosity and the fact that it is in a semi-liquid state. Marc Mesh is locked into the center of your nylon, and while in the center of the nylon, it is not going to stick to everything that it touches. Hence, you are never going to have the pocket of your stick change because the Meshbutter leaves the mesh. Once locked in the mesh, that Meshbutter is there for life. Whereas, with the competitor's product, this right here will stick to anything and everything it touches. And probably the very reason that they came out with the idea of pocket polish, because their waxed mesh, as with everybody else's waxed mesh, have a very short lifespan given this quality. So let's get something clear. We're not trying to knock on people that are making or trying to come up with the next best pocket. Good for them. For example, there's now, since 2008, a rubber mesh, which is different than Marc Mesh, and that might be your cup of tea. However, these people that are trying to imitate Marc Mesh, if you're willing to try their wax meshes, I can guarantee you, if you put a Marc Mesh in your stick, you will see the difference instantly. And all these people are doing are copying Marc Mesh. They're not giving you anything different. They're not contributing anything to the game. And beyond that, from what I understand, this company even suggests that you put this exact same wax onto the palms of the gloves that you use for lacrosse. Well, that's just funny. I mean, clearly anybody that tells you to do that doesn't have a clue about what they're talking about. So anyway, we hope you found this video informative, and we hope that you'll tune into more of our blue collar lacrosse Marc Mesh videos, as Mark and Joelle truly are stick stringers for the pros and have a lot of tips to pass on to you. Till next time, thank you for watching.